Hello and welcome to Wineskins, a program featuring reflections on the lives of the saints and sacred scriptures, along with a variety of topics and issues from a Catholic perspective. I'm your host, Father Jim Corda. Our show is sponsored by the annual Diocesan Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts, a division of the Society of St. Paul. On our show today, I will interview Joan Lawson on the Synod. We will also hear more about the life of the 42 martyrs from Ammoria, and the readings for this 6th Sunday of Easter. That and more on Wineskins. In our current issue today, we will hear from Deacon Connor Hetzel. With me now is Deacon Connor Hetzel, who will soon be ordained a priest in the coming weeks. Welcome to Wineskins.
Thank you, Father.
You know, it's interesting as we sit here and I look at you, a young priest, and look at myself, an old seasoned priest. It's wonderful to have young seminarians and deacons and soon to be ordained priests in the Diocese of Youngstown. In your experience these last several years in preparing for priesthood, what was something that stood out that you really liked doing, that you really enjoyed doing?
One of the things I guess I really enjoy doing is just being with the people in the parish. Internship was a wonderful time a couple years ago to just, one, get a break from all the academics after so many years of studies, but also just to be with the people, just enter right into the wonderful busyness of parish life, and whatever's going on, just find a way to be a part of it. And for me, that was during COVID, was the latter part of that year, but we still found a way to kind of be present to the people, even with lockdown and do not move from your place orders and all these things, but finding ways to just be present to the people, be part of their lives, and share the presence of the Lord with them.
You know, as you will be ordained in a few weeks, what are you really looking forward to doing as a priest once you're ordained?
I am so excited to soon be celebrating the Mass as a priest. But one of the things that has surprised me over these years of formation is I'm very excited to celebrate the Sacrament of Reconciliation. Not that I was ever not wanting to do that, but I just didn't know what to expect. And we had a wonderful opportunity to kind of be prepared a little bit with coursework, a practicum, and the experience of fake confessions, being the confessor, really gave me some excitement for being just a vessel of the Lord's mercy in this situation of the sacrament.
You know, as you celebrate the sacraments, you know, for us as priests, we use that we are kind of like other Christ. We're kind of the ones that stand in the midst of the people, sharing the good news of the Lord, carrying on his mission and ministry. That is really profound when we think about it, and yet that is something that we're called to do. And as Pope Francis says, to kind of get our hands dirty with the sheep. How and why is it important for us as priests to get involved in the lives of our people?
I've kind of found that as I've been preaching as a deacon, it helps me to understand needing to be involved with the lives of the people, because if I know what's going on in their lives, then I'm not just up there speaking words at a room. I'm speaking, hopefully, the Lord's words to the people gathered in this particular community. I've found that when we had to do practice homilies for our classroom, it was the hardest exercise ever because it's disconnected. There's not a real community there. But when I'm writing a homily for a real community and I know the people, I find it so much more fulfilling, but also easier from the standpoint of easier because I know them, I'm communicating with them, I'm sharing in their lives.
You know, one of the other aspects, I think, for us as priests in preparation for priesthood is that we find support in so many ways. Obviously, one of the supports that we cherish is that of our families. How has your family been supportive in promoting your vocation?
My family has been some of my biggest support. I hail from a large family. I'm the oldest of 8 children, and both my parents are still with us. And I have had the blessing of saintly support from my family, particularly my parents. From the very beginning of my discernment, even before entering seminary, my parents made it clear in a simple, in a not overbearing way. Just it was very clear that it was, we support you if you enter seminary, we support you. If for whatever reason you go and you leave, we support you. If you don't, this is your discernment and we support you. And that was wonderful encouragement for me, something I think I really needed, just that knowing the Lord's love through the love of my parents, but also my siblings. They're excited. They also give me a hard time, as siblings are wont to do, keep me humble, but in a way that is out of love and shares the Lord's love with me.
Well, Deacon Connor Hetzel, we certainly look forward to your ordination in a few weeks to the priesthood. We certainly thank you for your ministry, for receiving the Lord's call. We thank you for your family who has supported you, and we thank you for the seminary who has formed you. And so continued best wishes and God's blessings as you look forward to ordination.
Thank you.
For Wineskins, I'm Father Jim Corda. The feast of the 42 Martyrs of Ammoria is celebrated on March 6th. To tell us more about these holy saints is Bobbi Bankovich. She is from St. Paul Church in North Canton.
The martyrs were all commanders of the Byzantine Emperor Theophilus. When the Emperor Theophilus lost the battle against the Saracens at the city of Ammoria, the Saracens captured the city and enslaved many Christians. Among them were the commanders. The remaining Christians were either killed or sold into slavery. The commanders were thrown into prison, where they remained for 7 years. Many times the Muslim leaders came to them. They counseled and advised the commanders to embrace the Islamic faith, but the commanders refused to listen. When the Saracens spoke to the commanders, saying, "Mohammed is the true prophet and not Christ," the commanders asked them, "If there were 2 men debating about a field, and the one said, 'This field is mine,' and the other, 'It is not, it is mine,' and one of them had many witnesses nearby saying, 'It is his field,' and the other had no witnesses, but only himself, whose field would you say it was?" The Saracens answered, "Indeed, it is his who had many witnesses." "You have judged correctly," the commanders answered. "That is the way it is with Christ and Mohammed. Christ had many witnesses. The prophets of old, from Moses to John the Forerunner, whom you also recognize, and who witnessed to and about him, whereas Mohammed witnesses to himself that he is a prophet, and hasn't a single witness." The Saracens were ashamed, and again they tried to defend their faith in this manner. "Our faith is better than the Christian faith, as is proved by this. God gave us the victory over you, and gave us the best land in the world, and a kingdom much greater than Christianity." To this the commanders replied, "If that were so, then the idolatry of the Egyptians, the Babylonians, the Hellenes, Romans, and the fire worship of the Persians would be the true faith. For at one time all of these people conquered the others and ruled over them. It is evident that your victory, power, and wealth do not prove the truth of your faith. We know that God at times gives victory to Christians, and at other times allows torture and suffering so as to correct them and bring them to repentance and purification of their sins. After 7 years, the commanders were beheaded in the year 845. Their bodies were thrown into the Euphrates River, but they floated to the other shore, where they were gathered and honorably buried by Christians. Why did Christ come to earth? He did so to make us better than slaves, and to give us the right of adoption and the duty of a master. The right of adoption is such that in the name of Christ, we can call God Father. The duty of the master is to rule over ourselves, our flesh, our thoughts, our desires, and all of nature around us. O only begotten Son of God, by your mercy and sacrifice, we have received the adoption of sons and daughters. Help us that with your aid, we may persevere to the end in purity and in truth. Amen. For Wineskins, I'm Bobbi Bankovich.
Joining me today is Joan Lawson, who is the archivist for the Diocese of Youngstown. Welcome back to Wineskins.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Today, Joan, what I'd like to have us talk about is the Synod on Synodality. It's something that many of our folks in parishes are aware of, especially if they're on parish council or pastoral council. But why is it important for us as people of God to be engaged in this Synod?
It's so important because of who we are, because we are the people of God, we are the baptized, and this whole process is a process of the entire church, of listening to the Holy Spirit and listening to each other. And because we, the laity, make up such a large proportion of who we are altogether as people of God, our voices need to be shared, need to be listened to, need to be heard.
It's interesting. I like to go back to that word listening, because oftentimes when we engage in a process, that's one of the things that we don't always do. We don't always listen to one another. And being open to the movement of the Spirit through this whole process is also important. Why did the Holy Father want the people of God to listen to one another and to talk about things that are important for them as members of the church?
I think that that's who the Holy Father is, and that's how he's proclaimed himself since he stepped out onto the balcony. We all remember him stepping out on the balcony and asking us to pray for him. And I think that was a remarkable moment, a beautiful moment. And I think that he's been a listener, when he was a priest, when he was a bishop, and now he wants to continue listening and to spread that listening as a common practice among all of us.
Now, as someone who has a long life in ministry, but also in education and history, over the years, the church has engaged in different processes. Why is this process at this time important?
Well, we have had synods, obviously, and they have been good synods. This one, I think, calling us to a synod on synodality reminds us of the process, how important it is, where we are. There's been so much work going on in the church, so many people involved in mission. Maybe we have stopped listening to each other. Maybe we've gotten in our own cells, in our own pathways, and forgotten that we are all in it together, that each of us may be working in different pathways, are all heading toward the same thing. And it's time to recollect ourselves and remember that we're accompanying each other.
I kind of look at it as almost a Pentecost moment. It's like the miracle of Pentecost was that people got together and they listened to one another. They were there for a common benefit, a common good. I think another thing, an aspect that we need to look at as people of God, and also as we engage in this 2-year process of the Synod, is how do we bring God back into not our lives, but in our home lives, in our communities? Because over these years, especially these last 2 years of the pandemic, God tended to be absent. We were wondering, where is God in all of this? So how is God present to us in our home life, in our family life, in our church life?
I think even in the last 2 years, some of us maybe have tuned back into it, early on when we were just confined almost to home, many of us, we were looking at each other saying, it's been a while since we've had a conversation. Parents and children could bond more readily. They had to over what was going on, their schoolwork. It was extremely difficult, but there were also some gifts in it that they got to pause, look at each other, listen to each other. And with all the difficulties came the blessings and the remembering. As you say, people can ask, where is God in this? And then through deeper prayer, through looking around, saying, God has stood with us in this. God has remained with us, and our faith is essential to us.
One of the other things that I'd like us to talk about is, what about those Catholics here in our diocese that really did not get a chance or chose not to participate? Why is their role important, and what do we do for them to bring them along in this whole process of listening?
It's very important because we can't just listen to the people who like to talk because there are the shy among us. We can't just listen to the people who are extremely active and involved because their voices are often heard. We need the voices of those who maybe have felt left out or maybe have felt that they didn't belong, because we want them to belong. We want want them to be part of us. We want them to know that they are loved and needed, and they do have a chance to talk. Maybe it isn't in a large group meeting. Maybe that's not where they want to, but they can talk to other parish members. They can even, if they're inclined to go online, they can answer questions online, give their input online. So there's a chance for everybody, and we need everybody's voice so that we're not just echoing the active and the talkative.
I know several years ago, actually maybe decades ago, the diocesan was involved in what they call walking together. We were looking at fewer priests, we were looking at fewer parishes, the fewer number of Catholics coming to our churches. Why is it important for us to continue this dialogue, but also this accompaniment together and walk together and listen together?
I think that's who we are called to be as people of God, that we belong to each other. We are called to love one another. We may not agree with each other, but we're called to share in the one Spirit, one faith, one baptism. We know we are, and I think it's a good time to regroup and remember that. We can disagree, but still head toward the same Spirit in the same faith.
What would you like to tell the folks that are with us about this last year or so of the process of listening and engaging and being part of the Synod?
Well, I hope that you have been able to express yourself and that you feel that you were listened to. And if you don't, please give it another chance. Please ask someone to listen to you. Or if you are a good listener, please reach out to others and ask them, where are they with their faith, with their participation in the church? Where do they think the Spirit is calling us as a whole people to go? Because we need everyone's voice. The Spirit works in everyone's heart. Let's make sure that we all are in this together.
Joan Lawson, such a pleasure to have you on Wineskins and to get your perspective on the Synod on synodality. And God bless you and your important work.
Thank you.
For Wineskins, I'm Father Jim Corda. To receive more information and to listen to Wineskins, visit the website of the Catholic Diocese of Youngstown at www.doi.org. Stay with us. We'll be back in a moment.
The annual Diocesan Appeal, One in Hope, One in Mission, formerly known as the Annual Bishop's Appeal, is the primary source of funding for the work of charity and the mission of the Church throughout the Diocese of Youngstown. Last year, 35,000 men, women, and children were served through our Catholic Charities agencies across the 6 counties of our diocese. And every member of our parish communities are serviced and ministered to by the work of the diocesan and parish communities. We are so grateful for the many blessings God has bestowed upon each and every one of us. And we as a people of faith are challenged to take to prayer and heart the many ways in which we can respond in sharing those bountiful blessings with one another. I thank you in advance for your generous response to the annual Diocesan Appeal. And during these days of our Lenten and Easter journeys, may we truly be a people who seek to be one in hope and one in mission. Thank you again for your generosity, and God bless you all.
Our song today is by John Michael Talbot. It is from his CD entitled Wisdom.
Embrace discipline, my son, from your youth. When you're young, you will find wisdom with graying hair. First you plow, then you sow. From your youth, draw her close, then await her bountiful harvest. For in cultivating her, you will labor but little. Soon you will eat her abundant fruit. Discipline like her name, she is not accessible to many but few. Put your feet in her fetters, your neck into her yoke. Stoop your shoulders and carry her weight. your feet wear away at their door. Eager for godly discourse, let no wise saying ever escape you. Reflect on the precepts of our Lord. Let his commandments be your meditation. For his yoke is easy, his burden light. Take up his cross and follow, for his yoke is easy, and his burden is light. Then he'll enlighten your mind. Seek and you will find, and the wisdom you seek will be
Our scripture reflections for the sixth Sunday of Easter will be done by Father Matthew Zwilling.
In Eucharistic Prayer 1, the first of four main options the priest may choose for the celebration of Mass, the rubrics of the Mass instruct the priest to raise his eyes upwards as he prays these words just before the consecration. With eyes raised to heaven, to you, O God, his almighty Father, giving you thanks, he said the blessing, broke the bread, and gave it to his disciples. The image of Jesus looking up to heaven as he gives thanks over the bread which is about to become his body is strikingly symbolic. It means that he acts not for his own sake, but for another. Interestingly, human beings are the only animal to have significant whites in our eyes. Unlike an eye that is totally dark, an eye with whites can point. It can communicate where a person is placing their attention and what a person values. In the case of Jesus, he values not his own preservation, but the will of the one who sent him, and so his eyes point up. The word you hear is not mine, but that of the Father who sent me. Jesus does not exalt himself. He acts for another. This is what his mission is on earth, to pass on what has been handed down to him. He has no interest in power plays or in promoting his own ideologies. He speaks what the Father tells him. We too must be able to say the same to our brothers and sisters. The word you hear is not mine. We can say many fine words to others, but if they are only our own words, they are ultimately empty. Only the word of Jesus, the word of the Father, has the power to give to us what we truly desire, eternal life. It's a common experience in the work of a preacher that the homilies he thinks really have something going for them come and go and are probably forgotten. But the homilies that he struggles with, that he thinks very little of, are the ones that people are able to identify with. I hear the Lord saying to me in those moments, not your words, but mine. Because only the word of the Father can transform a person's life. That is why prayer is never simply optional. It is always a requirement. If our words are not handed down, if they come from our own storehouses, if our eyes are not raised upwards, then those words will have no effect. But of course, the Father's words are not meant to remain mere words. They are meant to take flesh. Just as the word we speak must be a word handed down from above, so also the way we live must be animated by the divine life. And here we encounter something wonderful. This life we are called to live is not the result of a rigorous moral philosophy, but the fruit of a relationship with a living person, Jesus Christ. When a person lives according to the word of the Father, Jesus tells us, "My Father will love him, and we will come to him and make our dwelling with him." When the beating heart of a Christian becomes a home for the Father, a dwelling for the Son and the Holy Spirit, then keeping the word of Jesus is no longer a burden, but a source of constantly new joy. we fix our eyes on heaven, and we pass on to others the joyful word of life that has been handed on to us. For Wineskins, I'm Father Matthew Zwilling.
I tell you this before it takes place, so that when it does, you may believe. Our Lord believed in the future, and so does everyone who believes in Him and shares His convictions. Wineskins is made possible by the annual Diocesan Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts. The program is produced by the Roman Catholic Diocese of Youngstown. I'm your host, Father Jim Corda, wishing you a blessed Sunday and a safe week.
What have you done for your marriage today?
I gave my wife a hug this morning. I told her I love her.
I did her hair this morning. I think it looks pretty good.
I cooked my husband's favorite breakfast.
I bought her an orchid.
What have I done for my marriage today? I sent my husband a love email.
I read the newspaper to my wife, and it cracked her up. But she's still laughing.
What have you done for your marriage today? Make a change for the better. Need help? Go to foryourmarriage.org, a message from the Catholic Church.
They say America is the land of opportunity, but for some, life isn't so easy. Right now in America, 1 in 6 children lives below the poverty line. That's nearly 13 million children of all races, all across our country. Where do you draw the line and get involved? You can make a difference in more ways than you think. Go to povertyusa.org today, because 1 in 6 children in poverty is one too many. A message from the Catholic Campaign for Human Development.